Welcome back to my speed draw mini-series. I've asked 5 friends for 5 outfits, and over 5 days, I'll draw 5 characters, spending 5 hours on each one. So, let's get started. This outfit comes from my friend B-Rai. It's the uniform of the Bashi-Bazouks. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They were mercenaries during the Ottoman Empire. They were not official soldiers. They fought for plunder instead of official wages, and often had to be forcibly disarmed by regular Ottoman troops after battles because they kept looting and drinking. So right off the bat, I wanted to go for a very dynamic pose. This is a soldier, a fighting type. I didn't want to do something boring with this. I did look up some references real quick. I use them pretty loosely. And I do want to point out this guy in business casual, hopping over a fence, coming to get you. You haven't turned your assignment in and the teacher's just running you down. This skirt detail in the sketch was of course meant to just be a quick placeholder, but it turned out to be a lot more useful than I expected it to initially be. Turns out I got the shape I wanted on the first attempt. This pouch on his stomach is a holster of some sort. You can see in the paintings I'm using as reference that they can hold their sword and their gun in it. At some point in the sketch, I added a gun to the pouch, but just decided not to put that in. Was already busy enough. I learned my lesson from last time and took pictures of my hands so I could use them as reference and actually get a decent looking hand this time. In one of these pictures I'm holding a giant hammer that I've just had it for years, but I have no recollection of who gave it to me or why I bought it, but it does make a good stand-in for a sword hilt. It's a good prop to have around. I ended up not liking the second reference photo of my own hand that I took, so I just used the ones that I already had in my stock images. There's a detail in one of these paintings that I wanted to maintain. This guy is not wearing his shoes properly. He just stepped into them and he's crushing the heel beneath his heel. And I think that's really funny looking, so I wanted to keep that in this illustration. This hat is my favorite part of the request, just because it's very eye-catching. It has all these tassels on it, which can convey the movement very well, and it just outright looks cool. Something about this project in general that I wanted to mention. Why I chose the theme of outfits as prompts. And that was mostly to force me to go out of my comfort zone. There's always things that I'm familiar with and I would want to draw naturally. I would have never thought to draw a Bashi-Bazouk by myself. So by getting suggestions from other people, I can broaden my horizon. The sword he's wielding is known as a yataghan, which was commonly used in Ottoman Turkey in the 16th to 19th century. The skirt was really fun to render. There's a lot of opportunity to convey movement in it, which fits this dynamic pose very well. I went into this not really being sure if what I was doing was going to work, and I'm really glad that it did work because it was very time consuming and I would have hated to have to do it again. In my reference, the vest that this guy is wearing is mostly covered by his arm, so I had to be a little imaginative with the pattern on that, and I really like how it turned out. I want this vest now. I want to make this vest. I want to buy a $500 embroidery machine just to make this vest. I was unsure of the material that the sleeves and the pants are made out of. I kind of imagined that they were leather, thinking that would work well as a light armor. I want to take a minute to self-promote a little. For the past couple of years, I've been running a podcast. In fact, the friend that suggested this outfit is one of my co-hosts on it. So, if you're interested in a very ADD comedy podcast that stars me, then check it out. It's called Frankenstein Control. You can find it here on YouTube. Coloring the hat in was really fun. It just really pops. It all came together pretty well. I do want to credit the original painter, Jean-Léon Guillaume. I'm putting a lot of names on the screen because there's no way I'm pronouncing all these correctly. I would like to credit him for the color scheme of this hat because I did reference his painting quite thoroughly. To do the shading on the hat and the vest, I just copied the layer that I had colored everything in, turned it all black, and then took the opacity down to about 20%. So that way I could just erase away where the light would be hitting it. That way I don't have to constantly sample other colors and darken them as I go. It's just one big block that I could cut away from. I haven't quite learned my lesson yet about using the neon green to mark where I haven't colored the lines in yet. It wasn't as irritating this time around dealing with it, but I think this is the last time I'm ever going to use that method. The background was fairly essential to the composition of this piece, so I'm glad that I had time for it. And I'm glad I remembered to put this chest hair in at the last minute. I think it has a lot of personality to him. So here's my finished Bashi-Bazouk. I'm actually quite proud of how this one turned out. It's very dynamic, very colorful in a lot of key places. There's a lot of movement to admire. I feel very positively about it all around. One thing I think could use some adjustment is the positioning of the legs. The one feels like it extends a little too far, or maybe not far enough. They could use adjustment, but I'm not really sure in what way. So I hope you enjoyed part 2 of this mini-series, and I hope you'll continue to tune in for the rest of the week. See you then!